gonna flash in, and he steals the Baron. How did that connect by Edgeway?
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. As you can see, it's not Medic and Orcs anymore. It's Viperoon and Troubleinc coming at you with the second half of today's games. In fact, who knows how many games we're going to get. Depends on what qualification we see. Trouble, those first 3 games were certainly something.
Oh, absolutely. I felt like, I'm not going to lie, I felt like the quality of League of Legends went down because the bloodthirstiness of the teams went up. And when you really want to qualify and you really need to beat this big opponent that's called Corp or Vodafone Giants, you try so hard. And this is where the games can tend to get a little bit messy. Like this one we just watched did from Matchco, but we have a really interesting one coming our way, Will.
Yeah, we've got a massively interesting game coming through, and yeah, this was a game of League of Legends, certainly. It was... yeah. But, you know, it's something that we need to keep an eye on because the stakes in this group are so high. Corp obviously really want to be able to qualify out of this group and find themselves that top seed, and they can guarantee themselves a slot in the quarterfinals with a win here.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got MOUZ on the other side where they're fighting for the survival. I think if anything, this is the most important game of the day. If Karmine Corp wins, they solidify the fact that they're going through to the quarterfinals. If MOUZ wins, that means that they still have their chances open to make it through to the quarterfinals and of course deny Karmine Corp their spot.
Absolutely, and we will see both of these teams after this game again because they've both got a further match in the second half of the day. Karmine Corp got that matchup against Matchco, who haven't looked at their best today, so you've got to imagine they're going to be heavily favoured. Giants and MOUZ will be playing to round us out. You can see on your screens where we stand right now, and the group at the moment, excluding Matchco, unfortunately, because they are down on that 0-5 right now, any of these teams could, in theory, beat one another. You've got to imagine. There's not a world where there's massive upsets either way.
I think even Matchco have the potential to upset one more game that will very much affect the standings right now. They're playing against Karmine Corp in the one after this one, and I think if anything, even when you have disqualified, you always want to leave European Masters with your last game being memorable. And I don't know how Matchco are going to choose to make it memorable, but I do think that a win over Karmine Corp could potentially be.
It would be very exciting for that to happen. Of course, Matchco maybe can't qualify themselves, but could look to take Karmine Corp. These champions of the European Masters, take them down and take them out with them. That would definitely be an amazing story to carry forward. But we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. We've got MOUZ coming up against Corp, as we see on our screens. It's going to be MOUZ on the blue side and Corp on the red.
And what has been very interesting so far is that MOUZ don't hesitate to swap Satorius and Czekolad around. It feels like Czekolad is playing the top lane really well, and so does Satorius the mid lane. And a lot of times when you see a lot of the ERL teams swapping their solo lanes around, there's a little bit of discrepancy specifically on how the mid laners will play the top side of the map, because it's the longer lane. You need to manage your wave differently, you need to back differently, rather than when you have the short mid lane to manage. And for Mousesports, it's been extremely surprising how well Czekolad can handle the top side of the map, and I want to see if they're going to just put Czekolad versus Cabochard or SAKEN.
It's very standard bans to start us off as well. Ryze, Jace, Rakan, and of course, Gadget's Karthus being taken off the table. I want to see the Gadget Karthus.
You want as we want to see Sebex's Ani against today.
Absolutely. Ezreal will be going off the table for xMatty as well. We'll have to see where the priority lies, because stuff like Fresh is still available in the set ban. It's quite interesting.
I'm thinking that Czekolad could potentially grab, they could either grab the Thresh here, you're right, or they could grab something like the Syndra. Also, SAKEN's shampoo has the Twisted Fate in there, but Syndra does pretty well, even the Twisted Fate early on to try these trades and stop him dead in his tracks. But they're gonna take Pridestalkr's Sins out. Now, Pridestalkr is talked to be the next LEC jungler to dive from the EROs back into the LEC, and he's, at least in the Prime League, the big name to sort of be pushed into the next league after this. And so far, in this European Masters, he's been doing particularly great.
We're going to see what they're going to lock in. It's the Lee Sin. It could go into the hands of Cinkrof, but of course, Cabochard Lee Sin. We were talking in the green room, actually, watching the first series of games, and Nightmare was like,
is it worth banning?
why aren't we just banning Cabo's Lee Sin at this stage? It's so good. And of course, the Yeago's open as well if they want to pick up another really strong jungle option to allow Cabo to get on that comfort.
See, here's the thing I was about to say. If Matty ends up playing an AD champ, which he does, because they locked in the Varus, and this Lee Sin ends up in the top lane, that we have a lot of physical damage going about. And I'm thinking, what are the AP choices that Cinkrof might have in this game? The first thing that comes to mind is potentially this Diana. So we'll see if they want to run with just SAKEN playing a mage or an AP damage dealing champion, or they're going to resort into the jungle as well. But I'm almost 100% sure that this is going to be Gadget's Ziggs, because Gadget does like a lot more his mages than he does his marksmen, and he has showed his profession on them as well.
Yeah, but of course it is flexible. If Czekolad wants to take that one in the mid lane, they could go for something a little bit more traditional. They're just deciding what to round out their first round, and it's going to be the Renekton, so still some flexibility. Could go into that top lane, could look down mid, and there's the Olaf coming out from Cinkrof.
All right, so I'm thinking right now that SAKEN is going to be the only ability power damage dealer in the team, and you need it to be a good one. I'm thinking something like the likes of maybe LeBlanc, something like an Orianna, something like a Syndra, but then I'm thinking you probably need something to either defend the Varus and cope with the Varus, or go all in with the Olaf and the Lee Sin, something like a Twisted Fate, something like the LeBlanc. This is where my mind lies right now, and Twisted Fate has already been banned now.
Let's see if the LeBlanc will follow suit. Syndra, of course, and Victor being removed. Obviously, Corp don't believe that Czekolad's going to be taking up the Ziggs either. So we're going to be forced on maybe some less orthodox mid lane pickups as we go forward. And the LeBlanc will be removed as well.
Yeah. So now I'm thinking we're looking at the likes of maybe something like an Orianna, something that you can put the ball either onto Olaf or the Lee Sin, try to go for a wombo combo. It's also extremely protective to have the shockwave around your Varus, but also because they have a lot of times you will see that the teams that play weak side top lane, such as Karmine Corp, because they like to play for the top side, they will pick the support and allow the mid lane counter pick. Otherwise, it's really strong to have a counter pick support.
We've got the Leona locked in, and now MOUZ will have to decide what they want to pair up with. What we are assuming is the Ziggs. It could still be a marksman if they want to go in that direction, but the problem is being considered. Of course, Fresh hasn't been touched this entire draft, and with this going through and being locked in, I don't think it's going to be at all. So giving that safe defense and that disengage to Leona's engage.
Yeah, and you got to think right now, what is the safest pick? The safest pick right now would probably be something like an Orianna. It does help a lot with the Zinza. The other thing that I'm thinking about could potentially be something like a Seraphine. Czekolad has played a ton of Corki as well, but it doesn't strike me like a Corki game this time. I think that, yeah, zoning people away with the ball, giving the Zinza the ball, and then running in order to the Renekton and getting that massive shockwave, I think is going to be much more influential here. And as for the Braum, you see 3 melee players running at you. I feel like his passive is going to take a lot of use here.
Now we're going to have to see what SAKEN's going to be taking into the mid lane, and it's the Azir going into the Orianna, getting some distance on himself as well.
Ooh. Okay, so even though the games have been extremely bloodthirsty, specifically for Karmine Corp and MOUZ in the previous one, these 2 drafts are a lot more laid back. The Lee Sin is actually going to end up in the jungle as well. It's going to be Cinkrof piloting right now. So you see that they have 2 pretty low-profile mid laners on the mages, both one on Azir, the other on Orianna, trying to facilitate for the jungles. And in the bot side, you've got 2 massively pushing lanes, one from the side of Ziggs, one from the side of Poke Varus. I think we're going to be heavily looking towards the top side of the map, where we have the Olafs and the Lee Sins going on.
Yeah, the champions that like to play a little bit earlier, they like to scrap a little bit more, and it's not like Azir where it's like, I'm just going to sit under my tower and I'm still going to farm because, you know, it's a good time. It's a good time for everyone involved. But I'm excited to see how this top lane kind of mid-jungle situation goes, and this top jungle situation, if that is where the aggression is going to lie. Because both of these teams, there's so much on the line, and there have been a couple of picks that we don't necessarily see too often. The Olaf is the one that definitely springs to mind.
Yeah, and when you think of Karmine Corp, when you see Olaf top lane, you have to think of Adam. Adam made his debut in the EU Masters last season in spring. He won it all. He brought out his infamous Olaf that he was known for back in the LFL, and he even brought it out again in the LEC. So Cabochard is sort of like treading in the same footsteps of Adam, bringing out the Olaf again in Karmine Corp.
And of course, they're going to be up against the Renekton and Zhao, two champions that can really mix it up and get working in the early game as well on that top side if they decide to do so. So while it's going to feel like a bit more of a laid-back game just based on like mid laners and marksmen and the support on one side, there's still options for maybe the Renekton early teleport play, some stacking down into that bot side if people overstep, because with champs like Ori, champs like Ziggs, yes, they're super safe when they can sit under their tower, but if they're forced to go forward a little bit, they can be caught out.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. We saw it in the LEC as well, how champions in the mid lane, in the top lane, will usually go down the river, disregard completely their wave, and try to break the map open by forcing a mage to stay underneath the tower. Something like an Orianna, who is completely immobile. Yes, Azir has a lot more mobility, so it's not going to be as easy if he has his E available, but Orianna is extremely immobile. You take her flash early on, so you won't be able to follow the Zhao into the river, which means you will lose a lot of pressure from that.
Well, we're going to have to see where they decide to make these early plays. There could be interesting early dive potential with a couple of the champions that we've seen. As you say, a couple of immobile options, a couple of champions with a decent amount of early CC that they can utilize. Are you expecting to see the game be explosive and quick because of those slightly aggressive picks, or are you expecting it to be more of the tempo of the long-ranged wave clear, the Ziggs, the Azir? Are they going to be the ones setting it up where it's going to be a bit of a snoozer 40-minute situation?
I think it's going to be kind of like a 40-minute game. We're going all the way back to Season 4, Season 5, LCK type of playstyle, where you're like lane swapping and you put your ADC into the top. No, they're not going to do any of that, but I think it's going to be sort of handshake down bot lane. You've got a Varus, you've got a Ziggs, you've got two melee supports. There's not going to be much of a contest right there. One's going to be bouncing the wave off of the other. I think it's all going to be onto the Renekton Olaf lane, and if you can get any of the two ahead, then they can snowball that pressure into the board side, top side river, and then into mid lane to potentially, again, grab a summoner.
Absolutely, because it's not always a case of, and we talk about this a load, players can get massive leads in their own lane. You see it quite often, but then they aren't able to move it around, especially when it's something like the top lane. If you're not utilizing your teleport to get around the map, yeah, you can have 2 kills up on your lane opponent, but if loads of stuff is being gained elsewhere, if you're not turning that into objectives or turning that into leads for other people, then there's not really that much point of you having that lead, and maybe giving it over to the junglers. Zhao and Lee Sin both can move that gold around the map, can move it to objectives, because you kind of want your smite on objectives you're going to take, controversially, I know, but you do want your smite there when you're taking stuff like the Dragon and the Rift Herald, and maybe that's where they're going to want to try and funnel that early gold.
Yeah, and I want to remind everyone what is on the line right now. We are at the end of group stage. This is the last games these 4 teams will play in their groups right now. This is do or die for both MOUZ and Karmine Corp. If Karmine Corp win right here, right now in this game, if they beat Mousesports, they have solidified their spot in the quarterfinals alongside Vodafone Giants, and then from there on out, only the seeding is to be decided between the two. If MOUZ manage to win against Karmine Corp in this game today, right now, they still have their chances to go through to quarterfinals and knock out the Spring 2021 EU Masters champions.
Of course, there would have to be results going their way elsewhere for that to occur, but this group is very, very close in this top 3. We've said it before. Yes, there's one team that's currently 0-5, but they still have a massive part to play if this game goes the way of MOUZ. And in fact, even if K-Corp win this game, Matchco could still pretty much guarantee the top spot for Vodafone Giants, or at least put it into their hands in 6 games in the regular group stages by taking down the LFL team. And we know that the LFL team can lose, because we saw it first game today. They weren't able to take down Giants themselves. So there's plenty on the line, plenty at stake. And just to have a quick word from production, we're having a couple of issues in game that we're just going to be resolving for you very quickly, which is why you still see our lovely faces on screen. But don't worry, our amazing production crew are sorting that out as quickly as possible. But Trouble, sitting where we are right now in our respective homes. I assume you're in your respective home. I don't know if you're
I am.
in a fancy hotel or whatever.
No, that's my fancy
Your fancy
living room.
I live in the void, if you don't know.
You
like
do.
when I'm not on screen, I don't exist. I only exist to cast. Who do you think are going to be the two teams qualifying out of this group? Giants, pretty much a lock, I believe, at this stage. But do you think it's going to be MOUZ, or do you think it's going to be Corp who are going to grab that second spot before we jump into our second round of games?
If the game is a little bit stale in the early game, I always do believe in the power of Ziggs. I feel like one Mega Inferno Bomb in the backline, even if it doesn't kill someone, it can push people away from the fight. It can force resets, which gives you the time to move into the river, go for those big objectives, potentially an Elder, potentially a Baron that will then help you advance and get into the towers and start sieging the map and controlling the map furthermore. So if it goes into the late game, I do favor the side of MOUZ because they do have the Ziggs, and of course they have the Zinza, and I believe that Zinza is one of the most broken champions in the game right now. True. Absolutely filth, yeah. So I do favor them, but on the other hand, you do have an Azir. I feel like one ultimate can like completely throw away any fight. So it's really close. I feel that both of these drafts are extremely evenly balanced. They both want to play the late game. They both have a bunch of scaling, and I think it's going to be played with details.
It's going to be those game of inches, which is what we've seen in this group quite a lot, and something that we discussed, where pretty much every game in this group has been won on those small details, excluding the game we just saw. It was a lot of quite big details that I think swung that one. Primarily, Giants not liking Seraphine, by the looks of it, was the reason why that game was so easy for them to take. We've talked a lot about this game. I guess just let's have a quick look forward to the rest of this day that we've got going for us. That fifth game of the day, Matchco's final game at the European Masters, the Amazon European Masters here in summer 2021, because they are going home. They haven't picked up enough wins. What's Sebek's gonna play mid?
If you're asking me, I would love to see Arena, but I don't think this is going to happen. And I'm hoping that I'm going to see Annie, but it's never been open against Sebek's. I asked Production as well, if we could have the standings just to show people how close this group is. Again, to reiterate, Vodafone Giants have already qualified for quarterfinals. The only thing to be seen from here on out is their seeding, whether they're going to be first in their group or whether they're going to be second in their group. What does that get determined by? Of course, who has the more wins, or if they're even on wins, then there's going to be a tiebreaker. The first team from a group then will have to play the second team from another group in the quarterfinals, and vice versa. The second team will have to play a first team from another group stage.
Yeah. So in theory, if you win the group, you get an easier match. That's not always the case though, because if you look at this group, if Giants finish first and Corp finish second, as we saw from the game that they played against each other, that's not a big discrepancy. And as you can see, the standings on your screen right now, Vodafone Giants have got themselves that spot, I believe, locked in already. Because they have to play Mousesports in the final game of the day, which means that, of course, Giants and Mousesports can't both win there. Corp need to win this one, but they can confirm themselves their spot, because Mousesports then could only get 3 wins, and Corp and Vodafone Giants will both have 4. Matchco, they can play spoiler for Corp, which I would like to see in terms of giving them a massive game. I don't necessarily want to see them win that game. I don't like teams going 0-6, and I do like an upset, but we'll have to see how that game progresses, because I've really liked how Corp have been playing a lot of these games in the group stages so far. And having them go through, it would send one of our strongest teams to quarterfinals. But losing them at this point, it would be a case of other teams stepping up. And here we are, everybody! Summoner's Rift! Oh, how I've missed you. We've got MOUZ on the blue side. We've got Corp on the red. And we're ready to get going.
And again, this is the most important game of the day. If Mousesports beat Karmine Corp, they deny them temporarily quarterfinals, and they keep their hopes alive to make it through in this group. If Karmine Corp win here, it's done. It's over for MOUZ. MOUZ are out. Karmine Corp goes straight through to the quarterfinals.
So yeah, that's the crucial thing. If K-Corp lose here, it's not over for them. They still have a lot to play for in their final match against Madco. However, if MOUZ lose here, then our top two are decided. They're trying to play so that they can compete for that top seed, and the teams at the bottom are playing to play spoiler, essentially. So we got the confirmation there that Cabochard is playing the Olaf top. We have got the Lee Sin in the jungle. Olaf top is just... it's something we don't get to see too often. It's going to be interesting to see what Cabochard can do with it, because they had Lee Sin for him if they wanted it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, they opted to put that Lee Sin in the jungle because Renekton is quite a hard matchup for the Lee Sin to play into. You jump in, you get stunned, you get traded. But for Olaf, it is much easier. And as you can see, Cabochard is also playing a little bit of a spoiler right there. They had to move Kamilius up to try and cover for this blue buff. And both of these junglers do not want to be facing each other. They will both start on different sides of the map. Cinkrof wants to play towards the top side of the map, where, as you can see, Olaf will have the push since Satorius had to leash for his jungler. And on the other side, you do have a Ziggs that can perma push the lane. But this is a problem right now because Kamilius had to cover for the blue buff, which means he's late in lane, which means he has missed a bunch of experience. And that means that the bot lane of Karmine Corp will get the first push.
But Targamas took an absolute ton of damage in that first exchange. Does need to be careful when you're on stuff like the Leona. Yes, you want to be playing a little bit aggressive, getting those stuns, getting those engage options going. But if you're losing half a health bar, you can do that twice before you go down. And giving early kills over to Gadget on the Ziggs, who of course, with Kamilius losing that XP, Ziggs was getting a little bit. So Gadget made level 2 first. You need to be a little bit careful in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Kamilius was not in lane. He was... helping with the leash of the blue buff, making sure that his jungler doesn't get set behind. But right now he is about half, maybe 2-3 creeps behind. There you go. He hit it right now. What is really important to see right now on the map, if we look on the map, Cinkrof has 3 pushing/priority lanes. He can literally go topside. He can even go bot side at this point, have his bot lane crash the wave right now, move towards the top side of the river where the Scuttle Crab is, help Cinkrof take that, and then Cinkrof can literally sprint through the mid lane and go for the top side Scuttle Crab as well, because he has the priority through the Azir and through the Olaf, and I think this is what's going to happen right now.
Let's see if you're going to be correct on those callouts. Of course, Czekolad and SAKEN, two really, really great mid laners.
Check out topside. Check out topside. Check out who's taking the Scuttle Crab up there. This is absolutely genius from the side of Karmine Corp. 3 priority lanes. Why share the Scuttle Crab when you can take them both? Set Pridestalkr behind. Remember, Pridestalkr is the moving gear for the side of Mousesports. He's the guy to get him ahead, the guy to make the plays. And right now, they're setting him massively behind.
He went for the reset as well, so I'm not even fully convinced if Cinkrof had gone bot and then moved up to the top side that Pridestalkr would have been able to contest, but he is moving towards that top side, hoping maybe to catch Cabo a little bit overextended on the Olaf. Of course, he does a flash evade, but we'll have to see if that one's blown. Actually, it's going to be an aggressive one for Satorius to start as off Cabo, trying to get away, but won't be able to do so. He loses the skull, but he gains the kill.
Yeah, right there, Cabochard, I find it a little bit optimistic to try and flash there. I think he was pretty much dead when he got stunned and hit by the W of the Zhao right there. But nevertheless, it's going to be 2 flashes for the price of 1 and a kill for the side of MOUZ. So even though Pridestalkr got set behind farm-wise, he does make the plays work like we mentioned before. You will see this guy all over the map trying to get the ball rolling for his team. Cabochard now, he's flashless, he's teleportless, and if I'm not wrong right here, Satorius might be able to run down the top lane without having to necessarily use TP.
And I mean, if Pridestalkr decides to move back up to that top side, it should just be an easier gank because there's no flash available. Cabochard doesn't have 6 yet, of course, is level 5, so not going to be able to get away from that CC with the Ragnarok. So maybe happy hunting grounds for Pridestalkr for the next minute or so, but he might want to move that first blood gold around the map and try and get something going elsewhere. First dragon is an ocean. This time around, we'll have to see if the 2 teams decide to play aggressively around that one, because we've had a bit of a mixture of teams either really prioritizing this dragon and trying to take it pretty early, or completely ignoring the early.
Yeah, and we heard earlier when Medic and Orcs were casting one of Karmine Corp's games. Karmine Corp are just not lucky, man, around this Rift Herald. You would rather see them taking the Dragons every single time they go for this Rift Herald plays. They end up dying, or they end up losing the Herald, or they don't have the correct setup. So I would say that both of these teams, because they want to go for the late game, because they want to go for the team fighting, they need to prioritize having this Rift Herald for the side of the Dragons. For the side of Karmine Corp, I'd go for the Dragons, but on the side of MOUZ, because you have the Zhao, because he wants to fight, and you also have the Ziggs, having the Rift Herald with the Ziggs explosion W, you can take down towers so fast. Satorius now is in a lot of trouble. SAKEN has pushed in his wave, and he's
level 6 though. He's got dominance if he wants to pop it, and there's the Ragnarok coming on through. Nice Reamer shuffle away. Satorius trying to dive back and will be able to do so. K-Corp go for the 3-man dive, but they're foiled by the Renekton.
Satorius played that so well. He was so calm and collected, patient. He waited for the Shurima shuffle to come out first, and then he used his E to get past the wall. That is a flashless Renekton that got out of a 3-man dive in the top lane. Nevertheless, Karmine Corp don't lose anything from that. The wave in the mid lane is even right now. SAKEN can actually walk back to his lane because he doesn't have the teleport and not miss anything. But on the other side of the map, you see that Karmine Corp, because of this play, they were able to go back, grab some items to the Lost Chapter of SAKEN, which means that at this point, Czekolad cannot contest the push. Therefore, the bot lane river priority goes to Karmine Corp and the Dragon as well.
Very slow dragon to start off with, but this is the objective that you said they wanted to prioritize. And
absolutely,
with Rift Herald not be on the map yet, they're able to take this one and then look to move resources up towards that top side to stop that one going freely over to MOUZ, who again, you said would prefer it. So we'll have to see if Cinkrof can actually do this one a little bit more expediently. He's got SAKEN there just to apply that finishing blow, but the first dragon is secured.
Yeah, it's going to be in general so hard for both teams to walk into a choke point. When you have the Ziggs bombs, you have his ultimate, when you've got Orianna ultimate on the go. If a team is trying to go through a thin choke point, they're going to be heavily punished. Same by the Azir soldiers and the poke coming out from xMatty's Varus. So it's going to be extremely crucial whichever team walks into an objective and into the river to have the proper vision.
Cabo in a lot of trouble. The damage is being blown onto. He can't get CC, but he can certainly be taken low. He's going to be forced to back away, at least for now. The shockwave is flashed away from xMatty, trying to get some damage out. Pridestalkr will use that ultimate. Satorius is low as well. Targamas is trying to get forwards. They're going to be able to pick up the Rift Herald if they can get towards him. Satorius is going to be knocked back and taken low. He is removed, as is the top side. Cabochard picking up a kill over there, as Czekolad will be kicked back into the waiting arms of the Emperor of Shurima. Czekolad removed as well. It's a rout. MOUZ lose 4, and they don't pick up the eye.
Wow, and this time Karmine Corp managed... Wait. Okay, so MOUZ did get the Rift Herald, but Karmine Corp managed to stop them from actually acquiring it. They've pushed in the top lane wave, which means that Satorius has to TP back into his lane. SAKEN dies, but very crucially, in this fight, they knew that they wouldn't have Gadget with them. MOUZ opted into a potential 4v5 due to the fact that xMatty had his teleport up and available. And you see that Cabochard is in no man's land. He walks in, but because of his ultimate, he cannot get pinned down. And then the rest of the Karmine Corp are able to come in and collapse. xMatty teleports into the crime scene, make sure to put down so much damage before he's even seen by Pridestalkr right there. And we talked about it, once you are in a choke point against Azir, your chances are very dire to survive. That beautiful flash kick right there from Cinkrof as well to completely seal the deal. Mousesports really beat themselves up right there because they opted into a 4v5.
And I mean, the most fascinating thing for me there was as soon as the Rift Herald went down, you could see the battle lines for K-Corp shift. You could see Targamas and SAKEN moving from where they were fighting down towards the eye to push off members who were trying to commit to it, because that was where MOUZ were going to be able to gain some value from that play. They were like, we can lose a couple of members, but if we get the eye, that's gold in potentia, we can try and pick up later. But now they don't have that. They don't have the opportunity to invest in a lane to take some plates down early. So it became an absolute win for K-Corp, and now they're in a very, very nice position. Remember, they got the first dragon as well. Second one will be a cloud in 2 minutes. Thank you, production, for no cloud soul. Glad you've remembered. that we don't have those round these parts. But yeah, just excellent play from the LFL team.
Absolutely. I think the game is sort of unfolding how we expected it to. Karmine Corp is going for those dragons because they want to create teamfight opportunities for themselves, especially forcing MOUZ to walk through choke points like we saw on the top side of the map for the Rift Herald, where MOUZ got completely obliterated by SAKEN soldiers. And then on the other side, MOUZ were really opting for the Rift Herald to combo it with the Ziggs W, potentially get an early tower, shove more gold into the Yordle, get him to be this huge wave clearing machine that they want him to be. But right now, they've completely deprived Gadget of a lot of farm and experience, even though he's one level up from xMatty, because remember, in that sort of exchange on the top side, Gadget did stay. He shoved in another 1 or 2 waves, I think, which gave him that experience that he has over xMatty right now.
But I mean, you could even see there, he was being pushed off by Targamas from the tower, unable to defend that second plate, going down. Cinkrof, Karmine, Czekolad. This time around, Targamas is just going to go over the wall to try and assist SAKEN and move around the map a little bit more. 1 minute on Dragon, so let's start setting up vision. Let's start trying to prioritize that a little bit more, because for Corp, grabbing that early threat of a soul could be pretty big.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you can see, okay, Gadget does have his teleport up and available. I was looking to see which one of the bot lanes is going to be able to get to that river quickly, because xMatty is going to have the first push down bot lane, and this is why I think MOUZ are sort of swapping around the map. You see Gadget running towards the top side of the map together with Kamilius, because xMatty is going to have the first push down bot lane, which will then inherently give them that push that they need into the river to try and probably contest for the second dragon that's going to come up. On the other side, though, Cinkrof is chilling on the top side of the map with only 20 seconds. A SAKEN,
He's
that was
okay.
a little bit overzealous. No, it's not. He just lost his flash.
Yeah, but he's still alive, and that's what matters as Cabo goes for a little bit of a trade in the top side. And yeah, as you were saying, there's a teleport advantage down in the bot side going over to MOUZ, but in the top side, it's Cabo who has that one. So if he can keep Satorius low and maybe try and bully him a little bit more, then he can get down and try and fight for this objective if they want to commit that many resources.
Yeah, I felt like even though Karmine Corp were a little bit late to that play, a little bit late to walk into the river and put down their vision, it feels like MOUZ have left them all the time in the world to go in and do that. There's a bunch of red wards on the bot side river, and if you're Karmine Corp right here, you need to make sure that you're starting to stack these dragons. You see that Pridestalkr has also realized the fact that you're not going to walk in there, not with a Varus, not with an Azir, not with a Lee Sin that's actually so fed right now, also has his gold drinker up and available. You're going to allow them this second dragon and possibly try to fight for the third or so bot.
Yeah, SAKEN's already teleported in, so this one should be going over without the Ziggs. No Ziggs steal this time around. There's a bit of burn, but the smite will come through from Cinkrof securing the second. It's a Mountain Soul this time around. Is there one of these two teams that will be particularly happy with that kind of prospect?
And the game has sort of slowed down. Pridestalkr is possibly waiting for the next Rift Herald to come up. They want to use Gadget as a little cannon to take every single outer tower there is in the Rift. Sorry, I was trying to find the word. Very surprisingly, you see how heavy push every single lane is. I don't think there were many tower plates taken, even though we have Varus and we have a Ziggs, which are two of the hardest pushing champions that we have, at least in the bot lane right now, and they're both in the game. But because the waves, we said it from the start, are going to be bouncing back and forth, no one will be available to walk towards a tower and be able to take this tower plating. So this is why this game is so slow. No tower is anywhere near starting to go down, and this time MOUZ again are setting up for the Drake. This time Gadget has his teleport up and available. xMatty does as well, but no mana. So we'll most likely see xMatty back in here, buying items, refreshing that mana, and possibly even walking towards the Rift Herald.
But again, remember last time that this fight happened around Herald, MOUZ had an absolutely disastrous time, and now Cabo coming in from the top side, just trying to force them into a choke, which is where we know they like to fight, throwing some abilities down, getting that Ragnarok down, but the undertow isn't doing too much damage. Gadget is here this time around, throwing bombs, trying to zone people away, but xMatty has also just wandered into the river. It's a 5-on-5 as soon as Czekolad moves up from clearing out that mid wave. And now there's just going to be one big ultimate, one big engagement from either side. But MOUZ is just being forced through these chokes that they really can't step through.
No, they can't go through these choke points. It's absolutely terrible if they do. One Lee Sin kick can end up getting your...
Kamilius called out. There's the Xenoblade coming up through, and he's going to be deleted. He goes golden on that last sliver of health, and actually dives away. Czekolad gets stunned up, and it came off. They're the members that low Cinkrof burning, but gets that triumph proc and the smite for the health. Gadget now could be in trouble. Gets called out by the Leona, and Targamas assists with the second kill. Satorius chased on the tower, but the Dominus will keep him alive for a second longer. Will he burn? No, he won't. Renekton gets out alive, but he can't say the same for two of his teammates.
Oof, so many health bars blinking, but remember what we talked about. It doesn't matter if the health bars are blinking or if they're dead, because that will give you a numbers advantage on the Rift at that particular point. That was a great catch from the side of Karmine Corp. They get Kamilius out the fight. They manage to kill Gadget. They zone away another two members. That means they take mid tower, which is going to allow them a lot more vision around the rivers and around the jungle of Pridestalkr. And they can also secure that Rift Herald. So twice now, Rift Herald curse has been lifted. Karmine Corp back in action. Beautiful ultimate by Targamas to catch off Kamilius right there. You see that Orianna and Ziggs do not hurt that much yet, and anyone that manages to slightly get towards the backline is thrown back out by the Azir. Really lovely play by Karmine Corp right there. They used every single tool in their toolbox so well.
And yeah, Targamas, you called it out on the initial engage. The re-engage as well was superb from the Leona. 0-0-4. Excellent scoreline for this point in the game, and looked crucial in that last team fight. We'll have to see where the next battleground will be, where these two teams want to scrap again, because as you say, the map with that mid tower going down looks a little bit less safe for MOUZ.
And it's really hard because you have two immobile carries. You have the Ziggs and you have the Orianna, and you have no Thresh. So if they slightly miss position, especially without summoners, for example, Czekolad, you see why Gadget is mid right now and not Czekolad, because Czekolad at least has his flash available, so he doesn't have his flash available, so he has to be underneath a tower, which he's actually forced off of, whilst Gadget is staying in the mid lane to try and clear out the waves. Karmine Corp are playing so well in depriving MOUZ off of experience and gold since minute 1. They use that triple lane prio to make sure that they secure the double scuttle crab. They use the vision of that to pull out gank, to push people further behind underneath the towers, and then from that on out, it's been pick after pick after pick that gave them the first, that denied the first Rift Herald from MOUZ and gave them the second alongside the tower, and now they can do whatever they want and keep on creating vision for themselves. The worst part for MOUZ is yet to come. Third Dragon, 18 minutes from now, this is going to be so point from Karmine Corp, and unfortunately for MOUZ, Karmine Corp have the push in top, they have the push in mid, and they have the setup in the river to have vision.
And it was what you were saying in Chat Select about not wanting to fight in chokes, because with the advantage, the team from the LFL is the one that's more able to set up. As I say,
Ooh,
that
look at that, look at the pings.
by MOUZ teleport coming on through. What can Olaf do on the back line? The rest of MOUZ have started up on the dragon. They don't know the Olaf's here. He hasn't been caught on vision just yet, so he can look for a huge flag. Targamas is looking for a re-engage. We know what he can do if he can land the Xenoblade. It's Pridestalkr who dives onto him, and Targamas is forced away. But in the back line, Cabo's doing so much work. He's looking to get it done. SAKEN splits up the entire fight, and Pridestalkr is forced away. Cinkrof has to get the smite to try and stay alive, but he's going to be useless in taking this dragon for a second. He dives over the wall, but Satorius flashes and gets the kill over after him, and now Cabo is forced away from Gadget. He could have got the kill, but the croc is there. It looks like Karmine Corp will get the dragon, but the fight wasn't perfect.
And the fight wasn't perfect because I feel like Gadget played this to absolute perfection. Cabochard had the perfect flank right there, and Gadget played like a Yordle god in this fight. So well played by Ziggs. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough again for MOUZ, and Karmine Corp will secure the soul point for themselves. So again, you see Cabochard, beautiful flank right there, and Gadget instantly goes through the wall, throws a huge Mega Inferno Bomb into 3 people, and then gets out and tries to force Cabochard to follow him, which allows Satorius to finish off Cinkrof and then walks out alive. So major props to Gadget for keeping this fight alive, but Karmine Corp with the objective in pocket and 2 kills.
I don't know if I love what Cinkrof did at the end of that fight, just because actually he's considering starting another one, but he basically allows Satorius to easily get to the situation where he could save Gadget. If Cinkrof had just kind of played around a little bit more on a different side of the pit, then maybe Gadget goes down to Cabochard and things look a little bit better for K-Corp. They weren't terrible in that fight, all things considered, as you mentioned, but maybe they catch out the Ziggs, who had been such a thorn in their side. But 20 minutes on the clock, the worm is on the rift, and the gold lead, it doesn't necessarily feel like it, but as you said, it's been all about denying gold. It's been all about domination in a financial sense, and K-Corp, they're showing it right now.
Yeah, it's just really hard because of the wave clear, right? You've got the Orianna, you've got the Ziggs, they're permanently pushing out the waves. So you don't feel like the gold lead is huge, because every time these two teams fight, it's very bloody and MOUZ end up taking kills. But little by little, Karmine Corp are chipping away onto the map. They've gotten every single tier 1 tower there is. They've got a tier 2 tower in the mid lane, which means that Gadget has to be extra cautious stepping up to even try and clear the wave. You see that he's even being denied his resets on the map right now, which allows Karmine Corp to know when they have the numbers advantage on the rift to move further into the jungle to try and make a play, knowing that they're playing 4v5. So the game is extremely slow because the stakes are really, really high. MOUZ win, they keep their hopes alive for quarterfinals. Karmine Corp wins, they lock in quarterfinals and knock MOUZ out. So this is really important for both. Saying this, I can see both teams in the late game winning a team fight. That was the dream flank coming in from Cabochard, and didn't end up being that huge in the end because of the way Gadget is playing around the fights. If they manage to take a front-to-back fight with Gadget there is a chance that Mousesports do win these fights.
It's a case of, with both teams, not only is it a case of can they win the fight, it's also what they can do off the back of the fight. Because yes, in the very, very late game, it's as simple as, we won fight, let's just run mid, especially if Gadget is still alive. But you can see, as a K-Corp, they're cutting off MOUZ's opportunity to move into the mid lane by playing so aggressively forward. So now the German team being forced back towards their top side. Is Baron on the menu a potential for either of these two teams? Is there a particularly fast one from either side?
When you have Azir, the objectives go down really, really quickly. And even though this Varus is not an on-hit Varus, you also have Olaf and you've got Listen to do the AD damage onto Baron right there. So it's not the quickest, but it's pretty quick due to the Azir. On the other side, it's not as quick because you've got the Orianna and you've got the Ziggs, but main priority right here is this mid lane. It has to be pushed, and it is permanently pushed by Karmine Corp, which means you're constantly bleeding pressure in your own jungle if you're MOUZ. You'll see that Karmine Corp will try to take away any jungle camps that they can, deprive them more of gold, more of experience, and then slowly but surely chip away onto the map, which they have done. If you look at all the vision that Karmine Corp has on the map right now, they can see every single angle that MOUZ will come at them from.
And of course, with Dragon up in a minute, that's going to be so crucial, because if Karmine Corp can grab themselves that soul, fights instantly become a lot easier. And when they've been very, very close, even an optimal play from both sides, that little advantage, that shield and those resistances is going to be a massive boon. That's, of course, Karmine Corp can take the fight around the dragon, because MOUZ are not going to give it up for free. But Czekolad takes a lot of poke and needs to be very, very careful. But one thing I want to mention before we get that fight in 30 seconds, we asked if whether Cinkrof getting the Lee Sin was a smart decision with Cabo being so proficient on that champion. Looking at the way he's played so far, the answer is definitely yes.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And now there's a huge problem for MOUZ, right? Because they want to go for this dragon. 15 seconds. They have absolutely zero setup in the river. Their bot lane is pushing right behind them, and they're forced again inside this choke point. So unless maybe Gadget wants to steal, and I guess unless Pridestalkr wants to flash into the pit, look at that, you can't go in.
Though, the aggression coming on through xMatty, taking so low, but he can't go gone as they try and get rid of Zinzao. He is dead. Kamilius is dead. Satorius is on the other side of the fight, looking for SAKEN, but he can't find him just yet. Cabo's pretty low. xMatty's even lower, but he's outside the fight already, trying to hunt down the crocodile. Will be able to do so. That's the ace going over to Karmine Corp. They don't lose a single member.
Oh my god, that was absolutely disgusting. We talked over and over about short spaces. We talked over and over about choke points, and MOUZ put their whole team through that. By the time Satorius is there, he doesn't even reach them, and when he does, SAKEN has his magic R button to put him back into his place. Karmine and Corp are absolutely dominant here, almost 10k gold ahead. I'm sure it will be after they take this Baron down. They take the Soul, they take the Ace, they take the Baron. They've taken almost every outer turret. There is only 2 remaining, and with the 1-3-1 potential right here, they could take every single one remaining and push for the base. Again, you see Satorius is coming in onto the Renekton, but he's too far away. The Mega Inferno Bomb hits no one from Ziggs, so the damage never ends up going down. And by the time the Crocodile is there, everyone else is dead. He can't even reach anyone. You saw the peeling from the Leona and the Azir are. By the time he gets close to even anyone, Leona presses Q and you can't move. So it was a very, very unfortunate fight from the side of MOUZ. They should have tried for the setup a little while before, but the problem is no one can match Cabochard on a side lane. Level 15 versus level 13 Orianna versus level 14 Renekton. Let's see if they can catch the Olaf, but he has ultimate, so hard to beat down.
Ragnarok, so he's just able to wander away. Targamas doesn't have that ability. It's pretty tanky. The Chains of Corruption go right, but xMatty needs to be careful about Satorius, but he's got Peel on top of him, and Satorius is dead. Targamas might go down the other side, but it's top 4 support right now. As SAKEN's on the side, he wasn't even involved in that fight. He's considering if he wants to go in at a different angle, but the answer seems to be no.
Yeah, it's just so hard for MOUZ to do anything right now. They literally have to sit back and try to wave clear after wave clear, but they've only got 2 AP champions that wave clear, so it's kind of hard. And again, we mentioned the 1-3-1 potential right here for Karmine and Corp, but they can push every single lane because they cannot be matched by anyone. Level 16 on the Olaf, level 15 on the Azir, and they've got a very strong core with the Lee Sin, the Leona, and the Varus that cannot very easily be dived. So all this pressure around the lanes, it can be so hard to get stopped by MOUZ, and all they can do is just keep on wave clear and pray for a pick.
Cinkrof, that's a nice little stopwatch as Pridestalkr needs to be careful. And on the other side, there's an angry Olaf, but he's going to be forced to back away with his tail between his legs. The inhibitor tower is down. The inhibitor still stands in the mid lane. The tower is just about still up, but Cinkrof can't get to the wave in time to allow for the Baron up minions. The inhibitor will crack 27.5 minutes into this game. Corp make inroads into the enemy base looking for Satorius. Will back him away. The Emperor's Divide doing work onto the Renekton. He's going to be chased back. The Solar Flare will mean that he goes down. Easy as that for Corp as they can push on.
This could be game right now. There's 5 members of Corp. Satorius has just died. This Crocodile has been a bit of a nuisance in the backline. He can never quite reach, but they always have to keep an eye for where the Crocodile is if Karmine Corp's backline wants to stay alive. Again, they're going to choose to take both inhibitors. They're going to grab the last outer turret remaining for Mousesports as well. So this is going to be one of the best Baron scenarios for the side of Karmine Corp, and of course, 14,000 gold in the lead right now. They've got Mountain Soul, which makes it so hard to pop anyone. And quite frankly, it's just a little bit hard to kill anyone from the side of Karmine Corp. I mean, all you have is a Ziggs and an Orianna. But all in all, the team is quite beefy. You've got an Olaf with the Sterex and a bunch of HP. The same for Cinkrof. The Leona has gone into the Solari to protect the remaining members. And with your main damage just being AP with the Ziggs and the Orianna, it becomes kind of hard to find any single pick because that shockwave that's meant to pop someone, it quite frankly never does.
It's hard to see how MOUZ can look to get back into this game, frankly. Just because of the position they're in, the deficit that they're at, the map position with all the objectives going down. Is Elder Dragon the Hail Mary where they try and take a fight? Because I just don't see them winning in any kind of fighting situation.
I just don't see where the Hail Mary is going to be, honestly, because they're going to have mid lane shoved in, bot lane shoved in. Most likely Corp are going to try to attack through the top side of the map because the 2 waves mid and bot are syncing really well right now. And the third one top can sync really well too because they're pushing in at the same time, which means there's triple threat in MOUZ's base at the exact same time. Look at the bot wave, it's pushing in, second wave is coming in as well. This is where Corp want to push.
Yeah, those minions are going to cause a massive issue if they're allowed to crash into those Nexus towers, and K-Corp know that they're going to have to send members back to Satorius, already stepping back towards the fountain as Cinkrof potentially looking for something, but he's going to get chopped onto by Pridestalkr, but the Lee Sin not too in threat, looking for a target. Can he find one? Not really, as Czekolad is able to flash away, but the inhibitor tower is broken. The inhibitor will likely follow, and they're trying to get the kill. They're trying to get the game as Czekolad goes down. Gadget falls back onto the fountain. Pridestalkr doing everything he can to try and break this up, to try and keep alive, but he just can't do it. Satorius goes golden, but that's just going to be a small respite as the ace comes through with a game in hand. K-Corp punch their ticket to the quarterfinals.
The 2021 Spring Champions destroy the dreams of Prime League's MOUZ. They quite frankly sent them home. And they go through to the quarterfinals. And I think we were looking for a game where Corp win in a very convincing fashion. All day long, we've been saying Rift Heralds are not for them. They broke the curse. They played their team fights perfectly. They found their flanks. I think overall this game was extremely clean and patient from Corp.
Absolutely, and it was all, as you said, throughout the entire game. It wasn't necessarily a big, flashy early game. It was just denying every bit of gold. That double Rift Scuttle being taken early into that Rift Herald play where that's the curse for them, but they played it flawlessly. It was a 4-for-0 or a 4-for-1, and they denied the Rift Herald Eye being picked up.
Yeah.
It couldn't have really gone better, and then they were just slow, methodical. We know exactly our limits, and I don't think there was ever a time where the team as a whole really exerted themselves over those limits.
It felt like had it gone a little bit further into the late game without MOUZ being 14k gold behind, yes, maybe the Orianna and yes, maybe the Ziggs would have done a lot more damage, but the way they were just fighting around the choke points, the fact that they knew from the start that Dragon is what we want to go for, screw Rift Herald, and then they end up getting both. I'm like, okay, wow, this is GG.
It was a fascinating game. K-Corp really stepping up. Of course, we're going to watch them in our next game as well to see if they can grab that 5th win, because now it's all about seeding. But before we get to that 5th game, we're going to have a full-on breakdown of the one we just saw. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the farm. How does that connect by anyway?
Fini! As EU Masters Champions!
And welcome back to the Amazon European Masters. We've got Group D still to round out, but Trouble, we know the two teams that are going through to the quarters now.
Yeah, it's going to be Vodafone Giants and it's going to be Karmine Corp, and they're both going to be battling it out for seeding. Who's going to take first and who's going to take second? But first, let's break down what happened in this game, because I feel like Karmine Corp had a very set picture on what they wanted to do throughout the game, and they absolutely executed on it.
Absolutely, it was painting by numbers for them, and MOUZ looked a little bit off the pace. Again, nothing too drastically wrong with how they played, but this was the fight that really epitomized the game for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think MOUZ tried to pull the trigger right there because they saw Cabochard overextending, but due to his ultimate, he wasn't being able to be pinned down, and then MOUZ opted into a 4v5. By the time they realized it was a 4v5 and that their Gadget could not join the fight, they were pinched into a choke point. A SAKEN together with Cinkrof absolutely dispatched of anyone. After that, it was literally pick after pick after pick for Karmine Corp, and through their picks, they were managing to get big objectives. They would first deny the Rift Herald, then they would take 2 dragons, then they would take the second Rift Herald, then they would take the mid lane tower, and slowly but surely you would see that every single fight Karmine Corp took throughout this game resulted in an advantage on the map. It was never a skirmish, it was never an unintentional pick, it was literally every time based onto an objective. Of course, going into this game, they knew that MOUZ wanted to play around Pridestalkr, they wanted to play around the Zhao, and they managed to shut him down really early off the bat. I feel like Cinkrof understood the state of the map for them. Karmine Corp had 3 pushing lanes from the get-go. They managed to grab both Scuttle Crabs, deprive Pridestalkr of the extra gold and experience coming from them. And from there on out, they knew that what they wanted as Karmine Corp is to start stacking the dragons, because Pridestalkr and MOUZ are going to go for the Rift Heralds and of course use them together with the Ziggs to open towers. But making sure you're stacking the dragons will force MOUZ to try and walk through the choke point to try and contest for the dragons, which is where Karmine Corp absolutely decimated them every single time.
And I mean, you can see from that gold graph on your screen right now, the early game was reasonably slow and reasonably even, but as soon as K-Corp took hold of the game, there was never any letting up at all. Everything was very finely balanced. They knew exactly what they needed to do, and they weren't perfect by any means. You saw in a couple of those fights, members getting caught out, xMatty going super low and basically being a non-factor in one of the later team fights because he'd been caught out by the Zhao, by the Orianna. But at the end of the day, they were by far the better team, and throughout this entire group stages, they've looked really, really strong. And as you said, now it's not a case of them getting to quarterfinals because they've already made it. It's can they take that top seed over Giants with the games coming up today?
Yeah, both of these teams are sitting on 4-1, and they both have 1 more game to play. Both Karmine Corp and Vodafone Giants are playing 1 more game tonight, right after this, and this is going to tell us which team is going to end up seed 1 and seed 2. This is really important. Why? Because after that, when they qualify into quarterfinals, the first seed will play the second seed of another group. So technically, if you end up first, you're playing versus the non-too dominant team of another group, yet still so strong. But you guys get the drill.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you look at this group and you're like, well, one of Vodafone Giants and Karmine Corp second seed.
Yeah.
That's not really like, you're not loading into either of those two
pick
teams.
your poison.
Like, yeah, this is an easy match. We got K-Corp. Woo! But we're going to be jumping to a short break. When we come back, it's going to be K-Corp's final group stage match. They're taking on Matchco. Can the Italian team get themselves their first win? Don't go anywhere. We'll find out in a bit.